crowding and traffic, it was still a tranquil sight in its own way. The cane concourse arching over the harbour islands toward the mainland, the white triangles of sailboats tacking up Biscayne Bay, and everything drenched in warm tropical pastels. The cemetery was an oasis of calm, never more so than early in the morning, when even in March, at the height of the tourist season, Iris knew she could spend some reflective time at the grave of her departed husband. The little vase of artificial flowers she'd placed by the headstone was somewhat askew, no doubt thanks to the tropical storm that had blown through the day before yesterday. Knees protesting, she knelt on the grave. She righted the vase, plucked a handkerchief from her handbag, wiped off the flowers, and began to tidy them. She felt Twinkle tugging on the leash again, harder than before. "Twinkle!" she scolded. "No!" Francis had hated the name Twinkle, short for Twinkle-Toes, and had always called the dog Tyler, after the street where he'd grown up. But Iris preferred Twinkle, and somehow, now that he was gone, she didn't think Francis would mind. She pressed the vase into the turf to anchor it, patted the grass all around, and leaned back to admire her work. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw movement. The groundskeeper, maybe, or another mourner come to pay their respects to the dead. It was almost 8 now, and after all, Bayside Cemetery was the only graveyard on the whole island. She couldn't expect to have it all to herself. She'd say a prayer, the one she and Francis had always said together before retiring to bed, and then head back to Grand Palms. There was a board meeting at 10, and she had some very definite things to say about the state of the plantings around the condo's entrance loop. Twinkle was still tugging insistently at the leash, and now he was yapping too. She scolded him again. This wasn't like him. Normally the Pekingese was relatively well behaved, except when that awful Russian blue in 7B set him off. As she rose to her feet, mentally preparing the prayer in her mind, Twinkle seized the moment to bolt, the leash slipping off Iris's wrist. He went flying away across the damp grass, dragging the leash and barking. "Twinkle!" she said sharply. "Come back here this instant!" The dog came to a frantic halt at a headstone in the next row. Even at this distance, she could tell the stone was older than Francis's, but not by much. There was a scattering of fresh flowers at the base of what appeared to be a handwritten note. But this was not what caught Iris's attention. Flowers and notes, as well as a variety of cherished mementos, could be found on half the graves in Bayside. No, it was Twinkle himself. He'd apparently found something lying at the base of the headstone, and was making a fuss over it. She couldn't see what it was, as the object was blocked by his body, but he was hunched over it, busily sniffing and licking. Twinkle! This was unseemly. The last thing Iris wanted was to make a scene in this place of repose. Had he found an old dog toy? A piece of candy, perhaps, dropped by some passing child? The prayer would have to wait until she'd grabbed the dog's leash. Stuffing the handkerchief back into her handbag, she strode toward Twinkle. But as she approached, scolding and tut-tutting, the dog grabbed his newfound prize and scampered off. With a mixture of dismay and embarrassment, she saw him disappear into a grove of cabbage palms. She sighed with vexation. Francis would not have approved. He'd always maintained that dogs should be well disciplined. "Fluffy little cur," he would have said. Well, Twinkle would get some discipline tonight. No Fig Newton with his Purina. Muttering to herself, Iris followed in the direction the dog had run, stopping when she reached the stand of palms. She looked around. Twinkle was nowhere to be seen. She opened her mouth to call his name, then thought better of it. She was in a cemetery, after all. Chasing after a dog that had gotten loose was bad enough.